Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for welcoming us here, and a warm and genuine welcome as it has been so far as well. So I'd like to talk to you about my company, Aponic International. We founded Aponic in various forms about 15 years ago, and we spent a lot of time in R&D, and we've created an aeroponic vertical farm, which is true vertical rather than shelving units. Now, there we are. Okay, so we spent our first 12 years in R&D with the system on the far side there, and that we developed for creating R&D in crops, so we can do speed breeding in it, we can do selective trials and comparative trials. That led us on to creating the system on the other side here, which then once you've got your crop and your genetics right, you can put it into a large commercial growing system so that this system can be created very, very quickly. It's very easy to assemble and it's very fast to deploy. It's also a patented product, and we spent a lot of time on making sure that we've got everything that it needed in there. So just briefly, the difference that we've created here is between aeroponic and hydroponic. So the hydroponic system on the far side has roots in a wet block, which often precludes the oxygen from getting to the root. So we created the aeroponic system where you're spraying a nutrient onto the root. That allows the root to actually take up a lot more oxygen, which allows the oils and sugars to form more efficiently in the plant. So you're getting faster growth, you're getting bigger yields, but you also get really good flavor and good trace element load in the plant. So when we're setting up farms, and especially over the UK, we've noticed these things coming up again and again. So first of all, with a lot of the vertical farming systems, they've got a very high capex, they've got a very high operating cost, and there's often a skills gap. So we don't have the people necessarily to go straight in and run a vertical farm. So we spent a lot of time working through those issues. So with our CapEx and the new system, we've streamlined it, not just the manufacture, but the working processes that go with it. So that means that every part on there has at least two functions. So it cuts our manufacturing costs because we're having to do at least half of the manufacturing process. Everything is made very efficient and recyclable. And we're getting somewhere near 6 times less expensive than our nearest rivals. So we're making sure that this can be deployed and that profit can be made rather than spending years repaying the capex. The OPEX, we've created a 12-volt system to run the main farm. So this literally takes 12 minutes of 12-volt power a day to run. So our base system will run from a single solar panel, a car battery, and where it's a recirculating system, we recover the moisture going through the root system, and that then goes back in. So we're saving 95% of the water that you'd normally use on soil. So it's very efficiently run with available energy, available water, and we often use rainwater because it actually is much, much better for the crop. So the skills gap we approached with other universities, and we're now plugging that. We've created our own education systems that go around this, so as we can take our existing farmers and get them up to speed on this sort of farming very, very quickly. And existing farmers are the most precious resource when you're looking at scaling and going into vertical farming and the advantages that that brings. And we've started with schools and universities. We also work with prisons. So when the prisoners come out, they've got a key skill that they can go into, and it helps stop reoffending. With the diversifying farmers, they are absolutely qualified to do what we're asking them to do, but they don't know it yet. And it doesn't take much education just to bring them into the realms of thinking this way and being able to create amazingly efficient crops. And this also applies to industry and entrepreneurs, because we can fit these systems into urban and peri-urban areas, as well as using existing farm buildings and that sort of thing. Then it's a really prime area for investors that can then go on to employ the farmers to run the systems. So now we're going to actually take a step back and have a look at the real problems with farming as a whole and vertical farming as well. So farmers have been amazing at growing crops for thousands of years, but they've been terrible at selling them. So now we've got a system where the monopolies dictate the price of the food that they're buying from the farmers. They're buying it as a raw material. And so the profit margin is very, very low for farmers. Selling seasonal raw crop is often a pretty delicate process. So we've put in a layer of marketing support. We've put in a layer of support within the system. So we rely heavily on IoT. We can keep an eye on every system that's running. We can monitor, we can support, but we can also learn from that, and that helps us to streamline further with an AI system. So we're then looking at the next section on, which is actually taking the farmers' produce and marketing it separately. So they're not selling to a direct layer of monopoly. They're creating local markets around them where they're getting a fair price for their crop, and they're starting to build a local market, which becomes their profit line. So we're working with the farmers as individuals and bringing them into a collaborative community so they can all help each other, because they're all working on a system which is a flat line across the, everybody's creating the same produce. It's clean, predictable, consistent, and sustainable, so that they don't have any secrets. One of the other things we find in the UK is that farmers don't talk to each other. They talk to their agronomist only. This actually gets the farmers talking, it gets them working together, so they can start sharing the cost of other products along the line. So we're trying to get them so they're processing once on the farm, for instance. So if you're just extracting oil from, let's say, a basil crop, you can expect 10x on the profit at the farm gate. So we're trying to encourage farmers to do that. It pays them to do it. It gives this farming sector a much stronger base, and it also gets well-priced crops into the hands of the public. So within that, we run marketing courses for farmers so that they understand the processes of marketing and the processes of packaging and the processes of making sure that everything is compliant. We run live remote support. The cooperative equipment would be something like the oil extraction units that we can move from farm to farm. And cooperative workers, so we could have a pool of workers for when the high manual labour elements where you're planting or harvesting, you can have a mobile bunch of farmers who move from farm to farm and assist when they're needed. So with this system, we often put in a fully controlled environment, and that means you've now got 365-day-a-year production rather than seasonal labour and seasonal produce. So you've got full-time jobs that benefit local economies, and also it builds supply chain resilience. So within that system, you've got no variables, and that was the whole idea when we first did that. Is that we looked at how to make farming make money, and it turns out there are just too many variables to run it like a business. When you take all those variables out, the seasonality, the weed load, and everything else, then you've got a nice straight line business that you can start making money at. So within that, you've got reduced food miles, you've got higher nutritional values on the shelf. There's a lot more benefits than that, but we're trying to get something which is a distinguishable product on the shelf. So within the nutrient mix, we have a full gamut of trace elements. That doesn't always happen in soil, so we can actually compensate for that with the nutrient mix that we use. So, what am I doing here today? Well, I'm actually just having a look. We're seeing where vertical farming is at the moment in Korea, and hopefully we can help to bring that forward with you. And we're looking to help us improve efficiency. So we often use a lot of sensors, we use a lot of lights, we use a lot of all sorts of things. The UK isn't necessarily the best place to buy those things. So we're looking to meet manufacturers in Korea, and we're looking to have knowledge exchange and collaborations with universities and colleges in Korea too. So I hope that we can meet up afterwards and have a chat about that. So we're also looking how to explore those markets. So how to we're looking to see how the local suppliers buy their goods and how we can integrate that with the production chain. So and I think that's one of the most important things that we've learned is that you can't rely entirely on farmers to take all the load. You've got to help them to create the markets. You've got to help them to create the technology, and then they will pull ahead. So your best resource that I've seen in Korea is your farmers that are already farming. They are the font of knowledge and experience, and you can put people in and educate them, but you can't give them experience. And that's what you've got. Because you've got relatively small farms, it means you've got more farmers, and they've all been making the best of their soil for a long, long time. So that's actually probably the most valuable resource in bringing farming forward in Korea. So I'm actually going to finish up there, but thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you.